I would like to invite our next speaker, Professor Ricky Spencer. That many of you know Ricky. A brief bio of Ricky. Professor Ricky Spencer is an ecologist and conservation scientist, internationally recognized for developing innovative solutions that integrate ecology, technology, and community participation to address environmental challenges. His research spans freshwater ecology, biodiversity conservation, citizen science, artificial intelligence, and water resources management, with a strong focus on translating research into practical outcomes for government, industry, and local communities. He is a co-leader of the internationally recognized 1 Million Turtles conservation program, a founding developer of the TurtleSat citizen science platform, and has led collaborative research across Australia and Indo-Pacific. Through his work with Australia India Water Centre and other international partnerships, Professor Spencer is advancing the use of AI, environmental sensors, citizen science, and nature-based solutions to improve water security, ecosystem resilience, and climate adaptation. His work has received national recognition, including an Eureka Prize for innovation in citizen science. So Ricky Spencer will speak on the future of water, intelligent ecosystems for changing world. Over to you, Ricky.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Can you hear okay, Dharma?
Yeah, we
Cool.
can hear loud and clear.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to begin with a simple proposition. The real value of environmental data is not the reading itself, the actual data point. Its value lies in the earlier and better decision making that we can draw from the actual reading itself. So what I'm really trying to say here is it's not just the data, it's how we can use the data to actually predict and be better at managing our ecosystems, but also for public health, our drinking water as well. Too often we manage water after the damage has become visible. A well becomes too saline to use, a wetland develops an algal bloom, fish begin to die, and by that stage, the ecological, public health, and financial costs are already too high. The question for us is whether we can move from aftermath to foresight. My focus today is a connected model built around affordable water quality probes deployed across drinking water wells, recharge structures, wetlands, and rivers. Each device is modest, but when measurements are repeated, quality controlled, and connected across space and time, artificial intelligence can help us recognize patterns, identify unusual change, and direct limited professional attention to the places where it's needed most. I'll connect three elements: Marvi and the MyWell app as a trusted community data foundation, our new Biohaven or ecosystem intelligence platforms as living, measurable, nature-based infrastructure, and practical Australia-India pathway for potentially testing these models. The idea is this: a single probe gives us a reading, a trusted network gives us foresight. All right, so have a look. You can see on this curve why connected monitoring matters. Water problems rarely begin at the moment that we can see them. A nutrient pulse, salinity shift, a fall in dissolved oxygen are conditions that may develop quietly. For a period, there might be no smell, no color change, no visible ecological distress, yet the system may already be moving away from its normal range. Temperature, EC, electrical conductivity, pH, redox potential, dissolved oxygen can begin to change before the consequences become obvious. One isolated measurement may miss that movement. Frequent measurements create a time series, and a time series allows us to look at direction, rates of change, and unusual combinations. The purpose is not to claim that every change predicts a crisis. Natural systems fluctuate, sensors drift, and a local context matters as well. The purpose is to identify meaningful departure from normal early enough, early enough to ask better questions. Should we repeat the reading, inspect the site, collect confirmatory samples, and alert responsible managers? That interval between first measurable signal and visible damage is actually our opportunity. Connected data does not eliminate uncertainty. It gives us time to investigate uncertainty before it becomes an emergency. So I want us to think of it in terms of two paradigms. The traditional model relies on relatively infrequent sampling, specialist field teams, and high quality laboratory analysis. That reference layer is essential. It gives us diagnostic specificity, regulatory confidence, and defensible evidence. But because it is expensive, it's necessarily sparse in space as well as time. The connected model that I'm proposing adds a different layer. Many affordable indicator measurements taken frequently and distributed across the landscape. The devices do not attempt to replace the laboratory. Their role is to reveal where and when change may be occurring so that expert investigation and accredited testing can be targeted more intelligently. The stronger system is therefore tiered. At the base are community observations and low-cost probes. Above that are automated quality checks and AI-assisted triage. Then comes professional inspection, confirmatory sampling, and laboratory analysis when the risk or decision requires it. Coverage and frequency at the bottom protect the scarce, high-quality resources that are going to be required at the top. When I speak about thousands of network nodes, I'm describing a scalable paradigm, not claiming that such deployment already exists, but it's something that we can get to. The practical task is to prove the operating model and at a manageable scale, reliable measurements, and clear escalation rules, and obviously trusted governance is vital within this. Okay, so a useful water intelligence system has three inseparable parts. Technology sensors, stores, and connects. Ecology tells us what should be measured, what change means, and which outcomes matter. People provide local knowledge, maintain equipment, govern the data, and make decisions. If any one of these parts is missing, the system becomes fragile. A technically impressive sensor network can generate huge amounts of unusable data if there's no ecological question behind it. A sophisticated ecological model cannot protect a water body if measurements arrive too late. And neither will create impact if communities and managers do not trust the information or have authority to actually respond. So the design question is not how many sensors can we deploy? It is what decision must improve, what evidence would support that decision, and who will collect and interpret it, and what actions follows an alert. The technology should then be fitted to the operating pathway. So this is why Marvi and the MyWell app, with affordable probes, AI, and what I'm proposing, our ecosystem intelligence platforms belong in the same conversation. They're not separate products. They are part of one relationship between observation, understanding, and action. All right. So before discussing artificial intelligence, I want to make the scientific boundary explicit. These low-cost probes, and when I say low cost, they're less than several $100 US, and some are less than $100. And essentially, what I want to say with these is that they're indicators. They can reveal change, but they do not themselves identify every contaminant or determine every cause. pH can tell us about acidity and alkalinity. Electrical conductivity, dissolved solids help with salinity and dissolved ions, redox or oxidation reduction potential, indicates change in chemical conditions, temperature influences biological activity, and the interpretation of other measurements. In surface water, dissolved oxygen and turbidity can add important ecological contexts as well. These measurements cannot show that a system is behaving. These can show a system is These can show a system's behaving differently, but it doesn't. They're not there to replace standard E. coli, PFAS, pesticides, arsenic, and other heavy metal pollution as well. A pattern may be consistent, though, with a contamination risk, but consistency is not confirmation per se, but it can help us direct scarce resources. The responsible model is therefore a screening and a triage model. Unusual patterns trigger a defined next step, repeat the measurement, check the instruments, inspect the site, and when necessary, collect the samples for analysis. The boundary doesn't weaken the case for low-cost sensors. It clarifies their most important role, finding the right question at the right place and at the right time as well. Okay, so just kind of give you a dashboard. So this is the role that I see for artificial intelligence. It's not there as an oracle, but it is there, and it's not an autonomous regulator. It is a triage layer that helps people manage more data than they could inspect manually. For each site, the system can learn an expected range across seasons and compare the latest observations with the local baseline. It can examine rainfall, pumping, recharge events, and nearby sites as well, like that connectivity. It can then look for combinations. Perhaps conductivity rises after a storm, ARP falls, temperature changes, and several neighbouring wells move in the same direction. The model should then rank the anomaly, show the evidence behind the flag, and recommend a proportionate step. That might be to repeat the reading, recalibrate, or actually hold and look for longer term changes. This is where the human side is vital in this triage. Human reviews the alerts and decides what to do. The field outcome then returns to the system and check for faults, natural events, and then confirm contamination or unresolved, or potentially leave it unresolved. Over time, this feedback improves both the model and the local understanding. The result is not automated certainty. It is a manageable queue of credible questions and a faster path from signal to action. So the most important infrastructure in this model is not the probe, it's the human network around it. Data becomes powerful when people collect it carefully, understand why it matters, and question unusual results and have a pathway to act. In Mavi, the train BJs, the Burjujankars, act as groundwater stewards. They connect measurement with place, season, farming practice, and community experience. The MyWell app provides the digital memory so that observations are not lost as isolated numbers. They become shared history that can be discussed and used. The combination is a living blueprint for connected intelligence. Local people provide continuity and context. A digital platform provides structure and visibility. Scientists and government agencies provide the reference methods, interpretation, and escalation as well. So each part is there to strengthen each other. The opportunities to extend this established relationship into water quality indicators without displacing the trust and ownership that make Mavi work. We should add capability around Mavi, not replace technology, not have a technology layer replace it. And this is where I want to go to next. So I just want to give you an example when, in terms of in isolation. So the visible surface, say here's an example of a well, sampling your well. A single high-cost laboratory measurement tells us what happened yesterday. But if you look on the other side, the invisible risk, this is what's happening around that single point. And that connectivity can give us, by having frequent spatially distributed observations, we can see what's happening today and predict potentially what's happening tomorrow. So, Marvi begins from a principle that's easy to say but difficult to operationalize. Groundwater is a shared resource, a sustainable management, and sustainable management requires local understanding and collective participation. Its strength's not simply that communities take measurements. The strength is the routine around those measurements. Trained local participants, recurring observations, discussion of groundwater behaviour, and the connection between evidence and practical decisions. This creates trust, continuity, and a sense that the data belongs to the people whose lives actually depend on it. The foundation matters enormously. Monitoring programs fail because they begin just with devices and assume participation will actually follow. Marvi begins with relationships, roles, and locally meaningful purpose. The technology supports the social system rather than actually defining it, and that's the principle here. The proposal here is an extension of that foundation. Alongside groundwater depth, selected communities could collect a governed set of water quality indicators using affordable probes. My well could receive those observations automatically, guide quality control, and connect unusual patterns to define confirmation pathways. The new capability should remain participatory, transparent, and proportionate to local means. All right, so my well is important because it turns repeated local observations into a usable record. A number written on a notebook has limited reach. That the same observation linked to a well, a date, a season, a responsible collector becomes part of a long-term baseline. That record helps communities see trends in groundwater depth, connect water availability and rainfall, and recharge, and support conversations about crops, pumping, and drought. It also gives researchers and agencies a clearer picture of variation between places through time. Adding water quality indicators would extend that digital memory. The single conductivity reading may say little. A year of readings from the same well can reveal seasonal behaviour. Comparable readings across many wells can show whether the change is local, clustered, or widespread. The design priority should be simplicity. The participants should know what to measure, how to check the probe, what information is to record, and what happens if the result is unusual. My well can make this process consistent without making communities dependent on complicated technical systems. So a single well tells us what's happening at one point. A connected network allows us to ask different class of questions. Is this change unique to one well? Is it appearing across the village? Does it follow rainfall, pumping, or recharge events? Is it moving through the landscape as well? The value grows through comparison, but comparison only works when observations are compatible and comparable. So we need consistent site identifiers, agreed measurement depths, calibration records, timestamps, operator information, which all exists with Marvi right now, and simple protocols for cleaning, stabilizing, and repeating readings. This is where sophistication should sit, not necessarily in an expensive device, but in a network around an affordable one. Metadata, quality assurance, maintenance, and shared data model turn many observations into dependable intelligence. The ambition is not to make every participant a laboratory scientist. It's simply there for each observation to be traceable and useful. and to allow the network to reveal patterns that no single participant or agency could actually see alone. All right, so this is potentially a core suite of which is deliberately modest. So these probes exist as at very low costs now. They record things like pH, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solids, redox potential, and temperature, used alongside already existing groundwater depth. Now, for wetlands and rivers, we can also use low cost dissolved oxygen and turbidity, which also may be important depending on the question that you need to ask. These parameters offer a practical window into things like salinity, acidity, dissolved ion changes, and the thermal settings of the water. Used repeatedly, they can help identify trends and unusual combinations. They're not a universal specification. The final suite should be chosen for local hydrochemistry, the management decision, and the capacity to actually maintain it. Affordability is more than just the purchase price. It has to be rugged, and that's what we've been testing. Repeatable, understandable, and replaceable. It needs to have a cleaning routine in most of these probes. There will need to be some calibrations, but very, very irregularly with most of these probes. But battery management, spare parts, those kind of things and a guidance on when you can't trust the readings, and they become all important in terms of these tests and pilot studies. A cheap instrument that quietly drifts is not a low-cost solution. So for drinking water wells, these measurements should be described as screening indicators, not certification for safety. And I think that's a really important point. Their value is to reveal change early. That's where their value sits in looking at changes and potentially predictable changes over short to long term. And direct confirmatory testing more intelligently. So if we're starting to see changes early and heading in specific directions, that's when the alerts can go out through MyWell that there are potential problems. But they can also be used for long-term planning. So potentially for, the depth of your well with the salinity can actually help guide you in terms of crop, and combined with forecasts for the coming season can help you guide cropping and long-term planning for your property as well. All right, so let's follow an observation from the field. The participant potentially inspects the probe. They'll go out and do what they do with their walk out and do their Marvy sampling. The idea here really isn't that we're changing too much here. We're really just integrating what they're already doing. You can essentially drop these down into the well, the measurements taken in their well, and the idea is that the MyWell app is all completely autonomous. And thanks to Alan, who's here, also Jason Reynolds, who's a expert around the parameters and the changes in parameters, as well as Basant. We really have now a working model. So basically, where this app can autonomously record the data from a low-cost probe. So the MyWell records the site, the time, the operator, the relevant context, things like rainfall, pumping, recharge activities, as well as these parameters that go through it, and they're automatically uploaded. So once it's checked, the first essentially get to this point where we need to get to the point where they're anomalous. We start seeing anomalies within the system and automatically checked within that to then potentially alert that there might be a problem with the reading and might need to do it again. And then essentially once that's confirmed and the data is confirmed, that's when we start getting to part two in terms of the pipeline. This is where the network intelligence really comes in. So after all the quality checks, the observation enters a network intelligence layer. The first comparison is with the site's own history. Is the reading within the seasonal range? Is it changing faster than normal? Has the relationship between the parameters changed as well? And that's the important bit, which direction are each parameter heading to. The second comparison adds context. What rainfall occurred? Was the well pumped heavily? Was there a recharge event? Are nearby sites moving in the same direction as well? That's the network part, which becomes really important in terms of predictability. These comparisons help distinguish a local instrument issue from a local water problem or a broader landscape pattern as well. So AI can combine these signals and rank them for attention. It may suggest that a pattern is consistent with a salinity intrusion, a nutrient-rich runoff, organic loading, or other processes. But those are hypotheses to investigate, not a diagnosis. The output should be understandable. So basically, which observations triggered the flag, how unusual are they, what uncertainty means, and what's the next step. And the goal is a credible, manageable alert queue that helps scarce technical teams focus their time on where the greatest, where they can make the greatest difference as well. So this is what we call an action loop. So an alert only has value if it enters an action loop. So obviously investigation, so local participant or the managers repeats readings, which we talked about. And if the concern remains, the next step may be professional sampling or targeted testing. Actions should be proportionate to the evidence. So essentially we need to start this really having baselines and whether confirmatory analysis support original concern and watching these changes in directions. So this is why I don't see the dashboard as the endpoint. The endpoint is better water decision followed by evidence about whether the decisions actually worked. So we want to basically have intervention leading to basically readings returning to normal as well, and we can see this, and we can automatically see this where once intervention goes forward. So that's around drinking water, but drinking water is actually all linked. So the same logic can extend beyond drinking water wells, recharge structures, wetlands, and rivers are connected parts of the water system. But each of these asks different questions and may need different monitoring design. So at a check dam, we may want to understand recharge response and whether water quality changes after rainfall. In a wetland, dissolved oxygen, temperature, turbidity, nutrients, and ecological observations may be central. In a river, flow, upstream, downstream comparisons, and event-based monitoring become important as well. The common architecture is a baseline repeated observations, quality control, the contextual data, and anomaly. So when things change, detection and define pathways responses, which I've gone through. The thresholds should not be copied blindly from one setting to the other. It is all contextual and local and must reflect the local ecology and use and risk. Most importantly, nature-based solutions should be designed with their monitoring system from the beginning. If we build an intervention first and then ask how to measure success later, we lose the baseline and weaken the evidence. This brings us to what I'm calling the ecosystem in intelligence platforms. These are living interventions that are also designed as observation points. So this is where thinking it as a paradigm shift. These EIPs, the ecosystem intelligence platforms, brings together two ideas. The first is the nature-based infrastructure, plants, root zones, and habitat structures that can support water quality and biodiversity. The second is the environmental intelligence, the 24/7 sensors, cameras, observations, and adaptive management. An island, what we call a biohaven island, can therefore be both an intervention and an observation point. It may provide vegetation, refuge, and nesting or basking habitat, but also support water quality probes, solar-powered smart hubs, and remote wildlife observation. So it's a really powerful management proposition. Instead of installing nature-based solutions and visiting it occasionally, we can now observe how it's functioning, identifying maintenance, and relate ecological activity to the conditions. So I'll just give you an overview of what we're creating here. So to a large extent, this is the anatomy of the platform. Around the edge, you have vegetation pods, which are now used for stormwater and sewage treatment for absorbing nutrients. But they contain native aquatic wetlands. Their root zones extend into the water for microbial communities, taking up nutrients and habitat for biodiversity. The central area is configured as a target ecological function. So potentially where you might have mounds for water birds or turtles, or a whole range of different things that we're looking at in terms of native pollinators potentially, but also bats, a whole range of biodiversity that, potentially critically endangered. The solar panel smart hub supports camera, telemetry, and those selected sensors. We're also looking at eDNA testing and being able to use eDNA testing that potentially in real time or close to real time. An important point is this integration. So the biological design with the monitoring are not separate and they can be used together and they can have very different targets. Right now in Australia, we're experiencing our first cases of bird flu. We have islands out there. Just to give you an example, we can do them for, you've got modular components for birds, plants, turtles, whatever. You can actually have targeted parts of the ecosystem. So this is the kind of output that we'll actually see. We can see live in terms of cameras, those sort of things in terms of, and this adds an added dimension for artificial intelligence. Plus those probes that the water quality probes that you can see in real time as well. The beauty is the community can see it all as well, see live what's actually happening in there, but we can now use it for a whole range of targeted potential interventions. So we've had our first cases of bird flu. This is one of our islands where AI has been able to identify potentially at-risk species, but then actually combine a whole range of different other parameters. And actually from the camera, it can actually pick up like feces levels, those kind of things that we can now use AI to actually give a score or high risk or low risk for these particular islands. And you can imagine placing these and having these in zones where you do have potentially migratory species that are interacting with the more common ducks and geese and swans, which are the ones that are likely to be most impacted as bird flu moves around the country. This is just from one of our islands. This was a spit out. We basically created this model and essentially assessed the risk of bird flu potentially in these regions. So I won't go too much more into it, but essentially what we're trying to create are these nature-based solutions around restoration, and essentially have a process rather than actually, having random species that we are targeting. We've developed these what we call key repair index and identifying species that are likely to have impacts within the food web, within the trophic levels, that by actually improving their outcomes or eliminating and having that will have the biggest impact on at the top here, the hydrological processes, the water quality that we're looking at. I know we're running out of time. I really did just want to kind of end here that just to show that these are all connected. These low cost, high quality probes really give us a huge amount of potential to act with foresight rather than look at the aftermath of the impact of water quality impacts and disastrous breakdowns in the ecology. So I will leave it there. We are looking to, really do a pilot, particularly with the Mavi work, and I think the new MyWell app might be out very soon, or it is out, or will be out very soon. But Basan can talk more about that, and Ellen. But I do want to just end there and say, really, what a single probe, can give us a reading, but a network of low quality probes that people can be involved in this really does give us foresight. So I will end it there. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Ricky. Fantastic presentation. I think you clearly highlighted the role of AI and machine learning in water management. So on behalf of AIWC, I would like to thank both the speakers for their excellent and inspirational talks. So now we will shortly move to Q&A. Before opening to Q&A, we would like to get a screenshot of all the participants, including your beautiful faces. Could you please put on your video? And I would like to request Edrina to take a screenshot. So we'll give a minute. Okay, how are you going, Edrina? All good. I can't hear you. You're muted. Okay. All good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now we will move to Q&A. So I would like to invite Basant to moderate the Q&A session. Thank you, Basant.
Thank you, Dharma, and thank you both speakers. I think we had an excellent presentation, lots of insights. So there are several questions by various people for the presentation. The first one is from Professor Pushpa Tapparji. So I think her question is, now with the rampant AI and data centers and subsequent enormous water requirement for these data centers, how is the sudden demand being planned in national water framework? So it's a question for Archana ji.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's one of the most burning questions, or I would say rather an issue. And I don't think it has been addressed as of now, because this is a very upcoming thing. In fact, the water requirement of data centers, and there is another, issue within India which is going to come up, is the ethanol mixing in petrol. And the ethanol is coming from sugarcane. And sugarcane is a water-intensive crop. So, I mean, these are the issues, I mean, the real challenges. I don't know how the government is going to tackle them, but at present, there is no provision of consideration of these issues.
Thank you. The next question is from Sushil Gupta ji. So the question is, the most controversial interpretation in India is the Indian Easement Act. This needs to be discussed in detail. So just imagine Indian Constitution doesn't explicitly mention right to clean drinking water, which is implied in right to life. So any comment from you, Archana ji?
Yes, it is actually, the Indian Easement Act, but then now we have this Central Groundwater Authority, we have the Groundwater Model Bill. So what has happened over the years, this act remains in place. It is an old age act, but then now the center through the authority has powers. All these, wells need to register themselves. So every well is to be registered, and then the center itself has delineated the aquifers within the districts. and also classified as vulnerable or safe or unsafe for water drafting. And then there are specific guidelines whether one can pump, and then for industrial pumping there are strict guidelines now in place. But Indian Easement Act still remains in practice. In fact, I will give another example. There used to be the old customary laws. There used to be a law of water rights, which says first in time, first in right. So a person who reached, who started drawing water from a water body, say from a water body or from a river. So that person must have, developed his livelihood around the water usage. So the person who went first, this is very specific to the desert states. So it was there in India, but now it is no more, experience. But still, in the Arizona desert of US, this law still exists. So people have water rights based on first in time, first in right. So this is just one comment on these old aged water rights.
Thank you. Next question is from Shivanand Indasagari ji. Is he there? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Good morning,
Yeah.
I'm there.
Would you like to ask the question yourself?
Yeah, very much, sir. Madam, I just wanted to know, there is a water tribunal, Madai Water Tribunal, that has been constituted.
Yes.
So, and out of the final award that was given in 2018, 13.5 TMC has been allocated to Karnataka state. So, but still that award has been challenged in the Supreme Court by all the three states involved, Goa, Karnataka and Maharashtra. So I just wanted to know what is the future roadmap with respect to the state of Karnataka as far as the implementation of Kalsa Bundari project is concerned for diverting water from Madai Basin to the Malaprabha Basin for drinking water needs.
Your question is a very specific question, and the answer you could get, the details are there. If you go to the website of the Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Water Resources, they have, the details of awards are there. And if you say the future, I mean, I cannot comment anything on this because the tribunal awards, as I showed in one of my slides, that there are contradictions of Supreme Court jurisdiction. Supreme Court, considers the SLPs. So through SLPs, the awards are being challenged, and still many of these, tribunal awards are still not settled. So future, I cannot say. A lot of political interventions are there, and Mahadai, I also heard about it. Initially, there were also issues that one of the states was actually, giving an underestimated figure of water inflows that they were receiving. So there are a lot of, I mean, it's very complicated. And, as a water resources, I mean, I am a small expert in this area. So it is very difficult. There are so many actors, for making decisions for the award. So future I cannot say, but the details, if you want, you can go to the website of the MOJS, and every award details are there. These are, big. There are chapters and chapters for each of the award, so you can read from there.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, madam.
Next question is from Dr. Israr Ahmad. I think he's here. Would you like to ask the question, Dr. Ahmad?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you very much for the beautiful presentation, Archana. My question is from, we have this smart city initiative by Government of India. Now, what I could see, there is a large scale city transformation and development activities, but, water planning is not in the loop. So my question is how is the idea of integrating, in fact, the smart city initiative with the integrated water resource management?
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea if we can integrate the smart city, concept into the water management. And there are some synergy schemes like the Amrut, the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. Like in the smart city, there is a lot of scope for water recycle and reuse. Also, you will have different, instruments for measurement, how much water is being drafted, how much water is, for rivers. So all this is going to help in various, water allocation schemes. So, I mean, there are synergy schemes, but still they are all, indirect schemes. One example is the Amrut, the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. That is one scheme. And the new I would say the schemes, the water resources schemes like the SCADA. Now the measurement is to be done. The online instrumentation measurement will come, and then it will be used for various kind of forecasting. So right now, only, I mean, one that Amrut I know, I've, read about that Amrut 2.0, which is an amalgamation into the smart city mission. But then definitely if we try to, but then the problem is the same, which I mentioned during my presentation. There are so many, central ministries which directly or indirectly deal with water. And sometimes it so happens that, the objective or mission of one ministry is contradicting to the objective of another ministry. So that is why if we have a central, but then the National Water Framework Bill, the states have directly opposed, because they fear that if the kind of central bill is enacted, then they will lose their own power of, controlling the water in their states. It's a very complicated issue, and the population or the human rights should have been the center stage, but I'm sorry to say that the center stage is still politics.
Thank you. And I think Dr. Professor Chaudhary was going to, he has a hand raised. Are you still there?
Thank you, Vasant. Dr. Archana, thank you very much for the
Thank you,
wonderful
sir.
presentation.
Thank you.
Actually, what I feel like in Haryana,
Yes.
we are one of the states which can be considered as a zoo for all the water resources related
Very
issues.
true, sir. Very true. Very true.
But unfortunately, there are so many authorities which are coming up, and we are finding lesser and lesser role of the academics and the researchers. So
Very true.
I don't know. I mean, these frameworks and legislations at times are complicating the issues instead of resolving that. So what's your take on it?
I agreed. I totally agree with you. And I think what you said, that it is one of the, a worst example of water governance, Haryana state. Look at the SYL canal, the Satluj Yamuna link canal. Still, it has, the Haryana has built it until the border, but there is no connectivity. Haryana still is not receiving the water of Satluj, which is allocated. And this is the worst example of political intervention. How politics, and it's, I don't know, it's politics, it is I mean, it is also some kind of militancy which has happened against it in the past. I mean, examples are there. People, the chief engineers have been killed, who tried to take this up. So this is actually worst example, and that is why in my concluding remarks, the one, small sentence I highlighted in a different color was the politico-administrative cooperation.
Thank you. I think
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we covered most of the questions for Archana. I think very important, interesting topic. I think so we can technically sound and scientifically doing all the right things, but legislation, the water law, and all those things are very important. And one observation I had is most of these acts and bills and legislation are related to surface water. Groundwater has only easement or the model groundwater bill.
Yes.
So something if visible, then there are so many disputes. Underground, you can't control. Very important for India, as you mentioned, up to 70% groundwater is used for irrigation or some other usage.
Yes, in many places it is true.
So That's my observation, that visible and invisible, the problems. And thank you so much. And now we have some.
So before you proceed to the next set of questions, I just have one small, because I understand that some students have also joined. So I just have a small message for the students, because they are at a very early stage of their research. So you should have a bigger picture. I mean, you are doing a research, but then if you can orient your research towards solution of these kind of issues. So now they have this idea, so they can do more of reading, and they can have a bigger picture, and then aim their research objectives accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have a few questions for Professor Ricky. So one is from Dr. Hindor Gatak. I think he's here. Would you like to ask a question yourself, Hindor?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, the question is for Professor Ricky Spencer. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Just to get an idea about the pilot program you have been planning to design with the MyWell app. So how many community members or how many of these low-cost probes will be involved in that? And what kind of time frame are you looking at so that you can ensure like proper training and QA/QC on the ground?
Thank you for the question. It's a really important question as well. What I would say is we're right at the beginning of this, at least for in terms of Marvi going forward. I envisage, and obviously we need to work with everyone. The existing Marvi network would be a great start because they already have been trained, and there'd be additional training. So I really think it's something that we could look at with the existing Marvi network, although we would love to do it elsewhere. We want to take Marvi elsewhere, particularly throughout Southeast Asia as well. So I do think it's got a broad potential, and we really could have multiple pilot studies in different regions to compare, kind of global changes as well. So I think a relatively small number, like as in you need somewhere between 50 and 100 in a region. That would be great to have that many probes out there. Definitely quality control and assurance would be really important there. So obviously comparing it with what the probes are telling us with the more accredited probes, or sending water tests away to confirm what we're seeing, and looking at those changes. So that would be part of any program that would look to, but also obviously want to quality check the people that are involved and how they're doing it. So obviously we would, or experienced people using these probes would also do it at the same time, not in every location, but just randomly throughout to compare those kind of things. So obviously very important there. But we're really right at the beginning of this. We're using these probes now on the islands that I proposed around here, and we're testing those. One of the difference between people going out there and using the probes in their well is that they can change the batteries, they can do all that kind of things. One of these remote islands, we're now testing big battery packs and solar panels that we can remote, and then we can access, working out the best ways to, is it we've got solar routers, network routers, or using Android phones that we can, essentially do all the AI right there and or do it through the cloud. So it's a really exciting time in terms of where this is going, and we would love to, if you're interested, please reach out to us, because we would certainly love to not just connect, not just do the Marvi type drinking well projects, but connect that with, the platforms in the area that connects the surface water with the groundwater and that sort of thing as well too. So lots of potential in this area. We're really right at the beginning of AI, and really right at the beginning of environmental monitoring at low cost, low power. That's big. That's the big thing.
Thank you, Ricky. So I think we are heading towards this data rich and thinking what to do. So traditionally, government departments have been monitoring groundwater data, water quality, some other data. And but I think the next step is to involve people, citizen science, and the AI is there and data science. So if we have lots of data of different things, and with the AI and data science applications, we can see what's happening and where. And by having network of these measurements, you can understand much more than just few data. And if you have a lot of data, machine learning can help. And so MyWell app, we have found one probe, and we are able to connect to the MyWell app instantly, and then you can measure all these 5, 7 parameters. So this could be a very good way to measure various things, and uh, it costs only less than $100, so it's affordable. So if NGO wants to do something, I think few thousand rupees can be the way to do. And I think the important thing is if we can have something which is reliable measurement rather than precise measurement. So if we want to know the change, what's happening relatively with different parameters, and this MyWell app is now is ready for use. And Alan, who has been working with us, he just uploaded on the Google Play Store and iOS, and web app is ready to use. So it's all there, and we will be announcing and giving links to everyone who wants to use anywhere. My question to you, just the last one, your comment, Ricky. So with AI, sensors, and citizen science coming together, what do you see the future in next 5 to 10 years? Where could we go?
I think to a large extent it can make life better for people. To a large extent, people don't need to know about, hey, this parameter is saying this parameter is saying that. What it can do is actually tell people that this is potentially this gives you information about how to plan your life better, how to be healthier, and how to, like I said during the talk, planning your crops based on, knowing the water levels with the climate and the climate changing, those sort of things, that you can plan your life better. But also having something that, you get like you said, in terms of water parameter changes, a massive change in one of the parameters can automatically give you an alert that, hey, stop, maybe you shouldn't drink your water straight away. There's something happened here. So in terms of public health, but from an environmental point of view, for biodiversity, for our rivers and planning around our rivers, and we've got some similarities, but some very core differences between Australia and India. But the reality is, to a large extent, most of the time we are recovering from a situation in terms of, we've had massive fish kills in Australia, all predictable, but essentially potentially what we can see in this space where AI can actually really help us predict the future, and be able to give us the alerts, but also help develop the solutions with us as well. It's not, I kind of was strange to say it's not replacing people. People are the most vital aspect here. But it is a companion. That's a tool that we can use to improve public health, but also our biodiversity values, nature, which ultimately biodiversity, nature, are your ultimate water purifiers. So you need your ecosystems functioning to have great, good quality water that we can drink.
Thank you, Ricky. So just a final comment. I think so far the water data, whether rainfall or groundwater or river flow data are mostly within the government departments or some, if they are available, researchers, scientists using, but not to the ordinary people. And I think what we're trying to do is to make those data available to anybody. And I think we sometimes underestimate ordinary people, citizens.
I,
They will not understand, but not should.
Yeah, and I think you're right here. It's not so much making the data available to people,
Yeah.
but making the data being able to be used that
Yeah.
people can benefit from. And I think that's the data being available. It probably doesn't mean much to the general community per se, but if it can be used to actually help benefit their day-to-day life, those kind of things, that's where the data transparency and data use is really important.
Yeah, and I think what we found in Mari is that without using Excel and models, having data and experiencing data, the farmers or the BJs could develop their own rule of thumb, which is very, very good. And so I think we have democracy, but what we need is a water democracy, means water data available to anybody and make them available and make them understandable. So this has been really good presentation. Both are fitting very good. I think one side is looking at the legislation management, and the other side is to collect data and fit both together. So thank you again, Archana ji, Ricky, and I think it has been wonderful. And before we go, so this webinar was organized in collaboration with the International Hydrogeology Association, International Hydrogeology Association. So if Professor Sinha is there, would you like to say a few words if he's still there? Probably he left. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone.